Okay, this short video or recording is about some answers, that's supposed to be some, written in red letters there, to the homework problem about paragraph structure. So let's start with the first exercise. I'm not going to spend a lot of time on most of these. There's only one question, one exercise, the fourth one that I want to spend some time on. So this one, nearly everyone got correct. What's the best topic sentence for this paragraph? And the answer is number 3, because it has all the main ideas or words, keywords, concepts that are covered by the paragraph. Solar-powered cars comes the closest, I guess, because it is, after all, in the first part of the first sentence, or the thesis, or one possibly, the first sentence of this version of the paragraph. But the rest of the but the rest of the um, sentence mentions about solar batteries. So, in fact, that's really what the paragraph's all about, isn't it? It's about the problems with these solar batteries. It's not so much, this fourth one is not also a possibility because it's really not so much about why solar batteries are necessary for these cars to work, but rather about their problems. And then finally, the second option is also not a good one because this paragraph is not about all aspects of solar energy. Okay, again, most folks got this one correct about which two sentences don't belong to this paragraph. I think everyone recognized the fact that he invented stoves has nothing to do with the boyhood of Franklin. Now, what was a little bit less clear is the answer. The second question, the second sentence that doesn't belong is the last one about his celebrated writings. And those of you who did not identify that thought that this sentence right here, he was placed in, no, not that one, sorry. He once said he could not remember what he did when he did not know how to read, and you said that did not belong. And perhaps you thought that because it begins by saying something about his memory, but in fact, it's something about his childhood, right? What was happening when he was growing up. So that one is appropriate for this paragraph, whereas this observation here about his celebrated writings, really is something that happened quite much later than when he was a kid. Now, the possibilities for the third part of this third exercise, which is connected to that paragraph, was to write a better thesis sentence. And this is kind of tough. I was thinking about this myself and how I would answer it, and I probably would have answered it or given something what's given here. These are two of the possibilities, or two of the answers that some of you gave. They're fine. They kind of highlight and mention the key words that are mentioned in the paragraph. Nothing really wrong with them. But these two there's a bit more of a better style to them, I think, for these right here. Franklin's journey from boyhood to Philadelphia was a hard one. Okay, so it doesn't mention everything that's in the paragraph, but it gives us a bit of a sense about what's going to happen in the paragraph. Remember, that thesis or topic sentence doesn't have to cover everything. It just has to signal in an accurate way what's going to happen in the paragraph. And then also this one here about Benjamin Franklin, celebrated writer, had an untraditional education. Okay, you may object that this doesn't have much to do with what's in the paragraph, but I think it's okay to have that in there because, after all, we know that about Benjamin Franklin, that he did a lot of things in his life, including writing this Poor Richard's Almanac. And I guess another problem with this exercise is we don't know what came before it. How much do we know about Franklin at this point in the whole essay? But anyway, these are two okay, pretty good thesis sentences, and these have a bit more, I would say, style to them. Okay, but what I really wanted to focus on with this little recording here is analyzing this paragraph here. Now, a lot of you said quite rightly that there's lots of, unclear sentences or redundant sentences. Sentences are either too short or just didn't flow, and that's all true. But what we're trying to do here is focus on just one aspect of the writing here, and we're kind of handcuffed us in a sense to focusing on just that one paragraph. And we're also kind of make this game a bit more interesting and challenging. We're not allowed to do everything to the paragraph. We're just going to try to fix only a couple things and identify a couple things that are really wrong with it. And so as we go through it, in terms of structure and organization, a couple of you pointed out quite correctly that sentences are made without really any supporting information, much less numbers. Now you can develop observations, for example, the lack of regulation in fisheries, without necessarily citing numbers per se, but statements like that need to be backed up by okay, are all fisheries really unregulated? I don't think so. So it'd be nice to hear more about which ones are not regulated. So the fact that there's not supporting information or data cited is a problem with this paragraph. But what I really wanted you to focus on is the fact that the paragraph starts off by mentioning this lack of regulation. And it kind of goes into that a little bit. And then it switches over to this lack of enforcement. Now, there could have been a way to change that first thesis sentence there, that first sentence, to somehow include enforcement, but right now it's not in there, right? So one solution to this would be just to break it up right here. And that in some ways would have revealed the problem with the undevelopment of this lack of regulation. It would have become clear to you, to the writer, that first part of that paragraph is really, really short. And so just without knowing anything else, you'd say, oh, there's a problem here, so how can I make it longer? And one way to make it longer is back up. Is to add backing data and evidence to support what you're trying to say there. But the problem with the paragraphs the paragraph doesn't end there, because as we go along, it talks about the lack of enforcement and this comment about due to fish living in water. Well, I don't think that's necessary at all, right? It's way too obvious, and that's really not the biggest problem, perhaps, of the fact that we don't know a lot about their life history. We then get down to about the difficulties of managing this fisheries population, these fish populations. So we actually have so the overall problems with the paragraph are one is really the fact that there's three different ideas here. One is this lack of regulation, two, the lack of enforcement, and three, the problems with the management. So those three things really are three separate ideas, or well, that'd be the easiest way to think about this is that there are three separate ideas. So each idea needs a paragraph, so there should be three separate paragraphs, right? And then by dividing them up that way, it becomes clear that some of these ideas, well, all three of them really need to be developed more. That is, add more information about what's going on to support them. Yeah, so there are other problems with this paragraph. One, for example, down here, right here is what kind of jumped out at me, is that okay, so it talks about it's difficult to manage these fish populations, and then it says knowing recruitment, sexual maturity, and so on, so on, so on, is essential to produce accurate management plans. In fact, we want to really reverse this order to make it flow better. We want to say to produce accurate management plans, we need to know about the unknown things here. So that didn't help the structure of this paragraph here. But again, the main thing here is that there are three different ideas that really necessitate three separate paragraphs. That's perhaps the best way to approach fixing this problem. I think it would have been really tough to somehow change that first sentence to make it a true, real thesis sentence that covers everything in this paragraph. Okay, I think that's it, and I hope you learned and know now about how to write structure at least a good paragraph.